Hey, welcome back to another episode of MyMotoCoach.com. Today's video, we're going to talk about how to crash. I did a Google search and I've never seen any education on it, but as you begin to ride for any extended period of time, you learn a few tricks, just like anything in life, but you learn some tricks on how to crash better, safer, more efficiently if you may have it. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. And ultimately, I just wanted to educate you guys and give you the best tips that I have learned over many years of riding to help you. And I just want to start out by giving you a little bit of history of me. I've been riding for 20 years. I started riding when I was 10 years old. I got a PW80, and I just learned the old-fashioned way. Just out on the kind of the ranch we had or the farm, and I just was putting in the laps and the time out there, and just trying to figure it out on my own. Never had any coaches like this or anyone to teach me how to do it. I had to learn, by myself, and that's not the best way to do it at all. And so in those 20 years I've been riding, I've been a professional for probably 5 or 6 of those. I did professional freestyle motocross. I've been a coach, and in all the years of riding, I've never broken a bone. And so I think I'm one of the rarest people on the planet when it comes to riding motorcycles, because everyone that I know that rides motorcycles have broken numerous bones. And I think it's just because I approach my riding kind of like a businessman. I realize that if I huck something and get hurt, I don't get to, I can't ride. And, I always want to be riding. And so I don't know, maybe I have a different mindset. I'm not sure, but I definitely wanted to if you're here today and you struggle with crashing and maybe you've been hurt a time or two, then this might be some of the education that you need and some of the tips that you need to take your riding to that next level. First off, I just want to say that this is not, I'm not going to teach you how not to crash. However, that question has been one of the biggest motivators for me to start my MyMotoCoach.com program in our coaching schools. It is so hard to watch riders, young riders, crashing for reasons that I have the answer for them. I know it's because they don't have control of their motorcycle. And the reason they don't have control of their motorcycle is because they're not riding with the proper fundamental techniques. They haven't mastered them yet either. And so that's why I created my coaching company. But I'm not going to get into all that. But let's jump in and start learning about how to crash a little bit better. The first off, in corners. I've learned it's just really scary to do, and it takes a while to even learn. But when you crash in a corner, I always try to hold on to the handlebars. When I was younger, the second I thought I was going to crash, I would freeze up, I'd tense up, and I would jump off the bike and get all wadded up. But a lot of times when you're wrecked, you're getting thrown in weird directions, and you're not in control. But one thing is, if you can hold on to the handlebars, it just seems to keep me in a better position to brace whatever the impact is coming, and I'm just not getting all flipped in weird directions. So the first tip is when you're in corners, when you go down, try to hold on to those handlebars. You're riding corners. The same thing is hill climbs. When you're going up a hill climb, if your front end comes up or whatever starts to happen, man, don't just instantly jump off that bike. Just try to maintain control of those handlebars, because more times than not, that has always seemed to help me from getting hurt in other ways. Because there's times where you'll try to jump off a bike, and all of a sudden the bike will end up running over you, and it'll make it worse. But if you can hold on to that bike, it gives you something to hold on to, and it just minimizes your crashing. The next one is really what I feel like all professional athletes have mastered, is just mastering the art of rolling or diverting energy. Anytime that you're going to correct or crash, you can land flat and just take the blunt of that energy right to wherever you're at. You see a lot of kids getting the wind knocked out of them because of doing this. Or you can try to land on your feet and then do like a tuck and a roll and really try to use that energy to divert it into a rolling motion. Man, this I feel like has really saved me from a lot of the crashes I've had. And I will say, when you're just starting out, when you usually crash, you're always in some sort of weird position, so you might not be able to always do this. But as I've gotten older and I've developed the right fundamental techniques, my crashes seem to be a lot more sophisticated, as you might say, or controllable. And it's just something that I've thought about, and it seems to help me, is just stop, drop, and roll is what I call it, and just is diverting the energy. The next is if you've ever struggled doing wheelies or crashing doing wheelies, the biggest mistake that you can do is just holding onto the handlebars when you're coming over doing a wheelie. If you're doing a wheelie and you start coming over backwards, what I do is I try to push the handlebars out away from me as much as possible, because the last thing that you want to happen is for you to come down and land right on your tailbone and jarring your back. And so what I found is if you're coming over backwards on a wheelie, if you push against the handlebars, push it away from you, it brings you, you're able to kind of bring yourself back up, and you're able to just land on your feet versus land on your butt and hurting your back. And so, man, so huge. Push away from it doing a wheelie. You know, jumping, if you're coming up short, you know, obviously if you're endoing, what I would do is jump over the bars and do the tuck and roll thing. I would never want to get caught in between the handlebars and the forks if you're endoing a motorcycle. It's just not a good place to be. If you're nose high and you're coming over backwards, same thing as a wheelie. You know, throw the bike out in front of you. Definitely has helped me. You know, one of the things to try to do, if you can, is to slide. You know, it's one of those things, the same thing as diverting energy, but if you can slide and also divert it that way, that's something that you should definitely consider doing it. You just don't want to take a hard blow right to your stomach or right to your shoulder. You know, you want to be in some sort of a motion that allows you to divert that energy out. I guess one little tip that I've always found out, you know, is just when you're about ready to crash, is just keep your throttle on. I have saved myself hundreds of crashes by not freaking out when you're in a close call of a wreck, but just keep the throttle on, stay in control, and just don't freak out. That throttle sometimes will help bring you back out of whatever you're going through. I've seen so many people, they come off a jump and they get a little scared because they're a little sideways. They let off the throttle, and the thing is that bike will just snap and whip you the other direction and throw you in all kinds of weird directions that you're not going to be able to control. You're not going to be able to divert that energy if you land sideways. But if you can land with your throttle on, a lot of times it'll pull you out of that landing sideways. And also you can lean into that. You know, sometimes if you lean just hard enough, you know, I'll actually just slide out sideways versus getting thrown off in a weird direction. So this is something that comes with time and experience. I'm just trying to give you some of my tips that have helped me tremendously save myself from being getting injured. Like I said, been riding 20 years, still haven't injured myself. It can happen any day, you know, something that I deal with. But so far, I think, you know, I've done pretty well. So I hope this helps someone out there. You know, I just want to inspire you, influence you, and educate you to be able to be a better rider, a safer rider, and a faster rider with more style. So, all right, see you on the next video. Bye.